we start with some yeast, and I've got about a tablespoon of yeast here in some warm water. Yep. So I used active dry, you used instant. Instant meaning that there's some active cells there, right? It's not all dry.
As soon as they come in contact with water, boom, they're
But this is sleeping, this is dormant, so you have to activate it. That's the difference between instant and active dry. So I'm just gonna pour this right into my bowl. And I like to use a half a cup of milk with this. I've got this at about 110 degrees, between 110 and 115. And a tip that I like to give with this is that whenever I have sour milk, I use it in this recipe.
Yeah.
It's perfect. So a half a cup of milk goes in. And then we can put this on the on our machine here, because we're going to add butter to this, a stick of unsalted, which, as you know, being a European and having been born in Switzerland, Italy is the same way. They use unsalted butter in their cooking. So this is a very soft stick of butter. That goes in, and a half a cup of sugar goes in, because as I said, this is a sweet dough. And here's that salt again.
Absolutely.
Need about a tablespoon. So why don't you whip that up for me?
It's also a great tip if you're making cookies and you want to cream your butter and eggs.
Exactly.
Perfect way to start.
So, how we doing there? That looks good. Let's stop the machine, because now we want to add our flour. So I know that this is going to take about 4 1/2 cups of flour. So let's see what we've got there.
I think it's starting to look pretty good.
Let's turn this up a little bit. Okay. See?
Yep.
As you say, you know, everything is trial and error. Everything is in the hands. So you have to know when to stop adding flour. So I like to use my dough hook, my bench scraper here to help me just get this into a nice ball of dough. So once you have it and it's not sticking to your hands, we want to move it in the bowl like that.
So you also flip it over?
I flip it over.
I should do that. That way it doesn't stick then, and then cover it.
Put the top on, and while you're doing that, before you came over, here's the one that we prepared earlier, so you can take a look at that.
Oh, wow.
So now we just punch that down. Okay, now what I do, I know you measure yours out, but I just do what my grandmother did, which is just get this into kind of a rough log, because they never had all these newfangled things.
We get spoiled a little bit.
I just eyeball it and cut myself up some pieces. So let's you and I make one, okay?
Now, how long did you ferment this for?
Well, I let this rise. It needs to rise until it's doubled in size, because it's such a heavy dough. It's going to take about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, or you could make it ahead and you could let it rise once and then retard it in the refrigerator, meaning you could put it in the refrigerator, bring it out the next day, and then let it rise again. So I just get these into a rough round. Is it in a nice soft dough?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Okay,
feels great.
Isn't it feel good?
Yeah.
Now I need my rolling pin.
I think it's right over there.
Okay, good. So now I'm just going to press that out a bit. I like to make these a little smaller than what you did, but you see how nice and stretchy it is. And I think the telltale sign is that when a dough springs back at you, you have to realize that it has not rested long enough. You've got to allow that gluten to develop. So about that size. Okay, so do that. And then here's that pork filling that we did, remember? So I take, maybe about 1/4 cup of it, and just put it right in the center, just like that. Maybe just take a bit more. Right in the center.
That dough feels good.
Does it feel good?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, coming from you, that's a compliment. And then I flip it, just like you did.
Yeah.
Just flip it and take a little bit of water and just press the ends, and then just press it down a little bit. And then I get my fork and put it in some flour.
Should I do this one too?
Yeah, do that one. And just...
God, it even smells good now.
Just press down the edges with a fork, because that is the way Grandma taught me to do it. So then when it's like that, I put it on a bake sheet with parchment paper, and I use a little scissors there. Here's a fork.
Perfect, thank you.
To just give that a little bit of expansion, air expansion, while it's
It's like a little venting hole
yes,
too, so
yes.
the steam can sort of escape.
So why
from
don't you
it.
do that one?
Alrighty.
And then we cover those and let them rise for about 25, 30 minutes or so. They look
Great.
like this. And if you can beat up that egg for me, I have ready some sea salt and some sesame seeds. This is so Italian, using
like
sesame seeds. And then just taking that brush. Boy, you're fast in the kitchen. You've done this before.
Once.
All right, so why don't you put on the sesame seeds
and then I can sprinkle.
and the salt. I like that salt on here. So you see the play of the nice sweet dough against the savory filling, I think is really interesting. So now my oven is on at 375 degrees, and these are going to bake for about 15, 20 minutes, just until they're nicely browned. So they go in the bottom oven.
Here, let me get the oven for you.